to order. First things first, I'll make a motion to approve our minutes from our last meeting. Any changes or anything?
No.
Not hearing anything. I'll call for a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. So we will start with the farmers market hiring, which I just sent out to everyone. The resume for the person. And I apologize because I didn't know the privacy laws at the time, and I made sure with Michael beforehand, before I started spreading it. But if you do see it, Stuart Kelso applied, and me and Eric today interviewed him with Michael to talk through all of our thoughts and what we kind of anticipated, or what we wanted to see out of a farmer's market, being that it would be later in the summer, 4 to 6 weeks, prioritizing food products, and making it accessible at a time of day towards the evening, midweek, Wednesday or Thursday, in the afternoons. And we had a good talk and we expressed all our concerns. Eric, if you want to add something, any thoughts? Gotcha. Our feeling after talking to him was to move forward, and we wanted to bring it to everyone else. I think it is our best option right now. And I think Michael had a good thought that we are going to put in a couple benchmarks. We really want to see kind of like a quote unquote business plan for the first season. We said that we were late to the game. Farmers have already planted their fields and are already kind of know where they're going with all of it. So we kind of talked about this season, reaching out to start making connections with farmers, start the process, see if we get enough people that are interested this season. If not, think about next season. So we'll be really far ahead, and we'll have everything in place. So we didn't want to put the pressure on too much because we're already into May. So that's what we kind of want to see. A business plan for this year. If not, then looking at the next season. And I'll be thinking of it more as like, I would be the point person for contact. He'd be doing all the legwork. Michael is clearly the quote unquote HR boss, overseeing the day-to-day and payroll.
Is it too late to reach out to farmers?
It's not too late. And I think that's what he'll be seeking, but and I said to him, I brought this up and so did Eric, and that, a lot of farms have already decided where they're going to be selling. So whether it's wholesale or at a farmer's market, they've already agreed to. So if they haven't planted enough, they might not have any extra for ours. So it's not that it's too late, but I think there's a lot of mid-range farmers that may be interested. So that being said, and I know you all just got this, I want to put a motion in front of you to hire Stuart Kelso for the farmers market position.
I would second that.
I hear a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So the next actions for me, I'm going to gather up all the information we've had from our previous meetings, put it together for him, and hopefully tomorrow, Michael will give him the offer. And if he accepts, we'll move forward and start trying to put the farmers market together for the season.
Great.
All right. All righty. Okay, update on site visit for Stockbridge Mountain Stewardship Plan application. let me just see here. Shelby shared with us. So I'll just, I will forward this update. Oh, everyone's got it.
Got it.
Everyone's got it. Okay. May 26th, it's looking like.
May 26th and May 12th, watershed on the 12th,
Okay.
Stockbridge Mountain on the 26th.
All right. So everyone should have this in their boxes, but we're looking at the May 12th, May 26th.
So I responded to him. I'm out of town on May 12th. It's fine with me if other people can go on that date. And I am available on the 26th for Stockbridge Mountain.
And that means that I could try, I'll see what I can do, try to make both work. But I will have to check my calendar, and I don't know if Abby or home or around those days, but.
Or Jamie, you had come to Stockbridge Mountain before. They're looking at May 26th to possibly go back.
Oh, that is my daughter's graduation.
Congratulations.
So
Congratulations.
yeah, congratulations.
Sorry.
That is fair.
Kind of important, yeah.
All right, well, we'll respond to that email and we'll keep pushing forward with that.
So
Yeah.
do we need to do the visit before we do a stewardship application?
Yeah.
Correct? So,
Well, it'd be nice too, I think, because I think with what I shared in the email today, or I don't know if I shared
email
it.
today, I did.
Or not today. Or what Shelby had shared with the application beforehand was a boilerplate,
Right.
just checking boxes. If we move forward and we're doing this, if we get accepted, then we'll definitely want to get in there and make sure that we are visually confirming what's there. If we, after.
So do we have to wait until the May meeting to submit that application or?
Let me just find.
My memory, I don't have it here, but my memory was it was pretty vague.
Yeah, the application for the cost sharing application. It was very vague, yes. It just said, what are you applying for? Other than that, and we're applying for the cost sharing and the cost sharing for climate forestry pilot area. Basically, that was it. We just checked those boxes and said, what property are we looking at? And that is for the Route 102 Stockbridge Mountain property. So that being said, I don't see why we can't pass this along because it's really just the beginning. If that makes sense to everyone, we got to put this in just to say, hey, we're interested in the program so that then we got to fill everything else out later, what we're looking at to do. And this is what we were talking about last time, I think.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to do that. Also, because they may respond with questions that then we could be aware of when we actually go out.
Right. So, that being said, from my perspective, Michael already has this. But I think let me put it to you this way. I think all I need to do is check in with Michael. As we feel like we need to take a vote to say forward with this. Yeah. So,
Okay.
all right. So that being said, I'll put forward a motion to apply for the call sharing program. And we'll submit this to Michael to move forward with the project.
I second.
Second? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All right. All right. So I will put that on my to-do list to make sure that we're submitting that and moving forward.
Thank you.
No, that's good. This is where I miss Shelby because Shelby is very good with the applications.
Well, I think He'll have his turn.
Yeah,
We'll get to it.
yeah, there's more to come.
Yeah.
All right. Moving right along. Okay. So now we have a guest with us. Susan is here, Susan Waite. We'll discuss town composting and the recycling dividends program. And I'll also have Abby help because Abby had a great discussion, I heard, about this program and kind of give us an overview slash what other people have been working on in Stockbridge and what our piece of it can look like. So I'll turn it over to Abby and Susan.
Great. Hi, Susan. Thank you for joining us. So Susan and I had a great conversation, I believe, on Tuesday. It was very long. I learned that there's a lot of information about compost and the RDP grant and everything related. But there were some, I think, key points that Susan pointed out that I wanted to share while we're in our meeting. So on the speaking of deadlines, the application, Susan, you said it's due on June 14th. Great. So the application's due on June 14th, but back in February, there was some other paperwork that needed to be turned in, so we missed that due date. So while we won't be able to apply for that this year, that just means we're super ahead for next year, which is really exciting. Yep.
But wait, you
Yeah.
haven't missed your opportunity this year.
Oh.
There was
haven't?
a deadline. Yeah, there was a deadline, but there's a you can still turn in your stuff for this year. There would just be a penalty of 1 point. So yeah, I'm sorry I didn't make that clear. So it's not too late to
that's all right.
apply if you can make some things happen quickly. It's not too late to apply.
Gotcha.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's totally okay. Please feel free to interrupt me. There's a lot of information floating around. So Susan has been, and also I've been in contact with Mark Buffoni from the transfer station, also Laura Dubester, because Laura started this conversation with Susan, I believe she said over a year ago. And if we're looking to start composting, Susan recommended that we should work with the transfer station to make that happen. So figuring out where we can delegate tasks and how we can try to be helpful, or who we have to reach out to. Let me see. Oh, I loved, we were talking about compost education. So the topic of a compost coach came up. I was telling Matt about this. Susan, if you want to jump in, feel free to if you have more to add, but the idea that people may need some assistance getting on board with compost in the town. There can be some confusion about what's allowed or not in the compost. So finding a way to get someone out there to stand next to the compost, talk to folks, maybe on during a couple weekends, once we first get started. Also utilizing signage can be very helpful with pictures. So that was exciting. So one of our action items right now is to get our Susan, it's the buy recycled policy updated for Stockbridge. So that for a town to qualify, we have to have this policy that in really summarized words just says that when it's economically viable, the town will try to purchase materials like rags and paper that are made of recycled materials. So that's one of the qualifying things that we need to have happen. Laura, you sent over a copy of Stockbridge's, and I believe it's from the 80s.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
this is, yeah. So the buy recycled policy is one of the baseline kind of hoops that a municipality is needs to jump through in order to qualify for the grant. And the RDP grant is kind of a gimme because it's based on things that you do in your municipality that Mass DEP knows are important factors in reducing your waste stream. So based on what you're already doing, you get points and then you get money for those points. So once you're qualified for the grant, it's pretty easy to get grant money. And the more things that you do that reduce your waste, the more points you get each year. So the buy recycle policy is really important for the Commonwealth because it's one thing to collect recycling, but if there isn't a market or if people aren't buying recycling to produce products, then there's no point in collecting recycling, right? So municipalities have a really huge influence. They have a lot of buying power and they have a lot of influence, and their expectation is if we're giving you, money to improve your programs, that the municipality is doing its part, and telling its those with purchasing authority that when it's economically feasible, you need to be buying material with recycled content. So it's a very basic kind of concept, and there are 260 municipalities in Massachusetts that are doing it already, that have buy recycle policies. So it's not rocket science. And the good news is that Stockbridge had one and has one. People just don't know about it. From the 1980s, it was passed, and so it just needs to be dusted off, updated, and then in the requirement is that you not only have a buy recycle policy, but that you notify those with purchasing authority of the buy recycle policy annually. So that this is probably like this one of the big two hurdles to make this happen this year or next. So it needs to be brushed off, updated, and then if it needs to be updated, then it'll need to go through, I guess, I don't know, either your town administrator or town meeting. And then it needs to be sent out. People need to be notified of it before June 14th. So that's one hurdle that would need to happen before June 14th. And then the second hurdle, should I go through the second hurdle, Abby?
Sure, take it away.
The second hurdle. The second hurdle is that, in return, one of the things that's important to the Department of Environmental Protection is data. And so in addition to the buy recycle policy, the Mass DEP wants each municipality that is participating in this grant program to provide recycling and solid waste data. So this means an annual report. It's due on February 15th. You can submit it late, but it asks questions like, what was your calendar year municipal solid waste tonnage from your transfer station? What was your recycling tonnage? Those are some of the most basic questions. But then if you split out school waste and you have data on the school waste, they're interested in that. And I think in a municipality like yours, there's going to be a lot of questions that you don't have to answer. So, a place like Northampton or Springfield, they have a bigger job of completing this report. But I think it'll be fairly straightforward for Stockbridge because you don't have all the bazillion services that some transfer stations or municipal programs do, where they collect bulky rigid plastic separately, and they collect this separately, and they collect that separately. And so it can get pretty complicated, but I think yours is pretty straightforward. So in order to qualify, you need, for the first year, you need 2 years worth of data. So we would need to complete this annual report for calendar year 2022 and calendar year 2021. And so those are the two things that essentially need to happen for you guys to be able to apply for the recycling dividends program for this June, on June 14th.
Gotcha.
So,
Lisa?
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go.
I'm just, off the top of my head, that seems like not much time to do that it might make more sense to get our ducks in order with what we have and apply for the next cycle. I mean, to come up with that data in 6 weeks, I think would be a lot
Yeah.
to,
Well, it's not.
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. No, I just wanted to say that the good news is that there are 2 other forces that Abby alluded to that are also interested in making this happen. And the first is Laura Dubester, who is the former director or co-director of the Center for Ecotechnology and a Stockbridge resident. Yep. She was interested in making this happen, but as a volunteer had minimal time, but she had spoken to your town administrator about it and gotten his buy-in and started getting some balls rolling. In addition, Mark Canelli, is it?
Canales, yeah.
Canales, thank you.
Mike.
Mark is the transfer station guy. I think there is a Mike, but
yeah.
Anyway, Mark is a relatively new transfer station attendant, and he's really on the ball and is doing a really great job. I met with him, and he, is very enthusiastic about trying to apply for this as well. So the key would be, figuring out exactly what data you guys would need to get, who you would need to get it from, and getting your town administrator support in having that person help you get that information. Because Mark said that he doesn't have access to some of the accounts receivable information. So for instance, your hauler, I think Casella, sends the material and information to town hall, and he doesn't see it at the transfer station. So he's not going to know tonnage reports and stuff like that. So it sounds like a lot, but if we can look and isolate and figure out which data points you guys need to complete, it doesn't have to be difficult. Now, you guys are considerably larger than the town of Alford, but the DPW director in Alford managed to not only he didn't even have a buy recycled policy, so he got a buy recycled policy passed, and he and he completed the 2 reports within a very short period of time last year. So he applied for RDP last year for the very first time.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be done. Mm-hmm. And I think with multiple forces, the chances of it getting done are even better. But that being said, it's your choice and your decision. And I'm not, I don't want to push you, but I wanted to voice that it might not be as difficult to do as it sounds like.
Well, I think too is like, I think we're in our scope of things, we're on the agricultural side. So like we're focused really on the composting part of it, education. And like, we want to make sure we want to, support in that way. And it's good to hear too, that there's already buy-in from potentially the transfer station and other residents. So we want to add our force to them to support them, because I don't think that within our commission bylaws, where we're not like overseeing the transfer station. You know, we're not gonna be the ones at the vanguard of this proposal. We're gonna help tack on, and maybe take on a little piece and support the composting part of it. Because I do think, agree, because I think our town meeting is May,
2 weeks.
2 weeks, it's 2 weeks from now, the
I
15th,
only
yeah.
have one.
Yeah, so I think, you know, to that point, now we know that we need the data and we can support and just, no, I don't want to say pester, that's not the correct term. Inquire about, you know, about it along the way to make sure the ball keeps rolling. And then in terms of the policy, that's something probably Michael, I'm assuming it's got to go to the town. It's got to be put in a bylaw or a warrant in there. So we're going to have to, you know, get it out, look it over, and then have someone write it, whether it's the transfer, Michael.
Is Laura taking that on, do you know?
Laura, unfortunately, left on vacation. So
Right.
she's coming back, but she sent a flurry of emails before that. And I believe she's notified your town administrator that this is something that is on the radar screen. So I would think that your commission could be really supportive in helping to move the buy recycled policy forward.
Yeah.
Because that is, you know, there is a connection there with recycling and agriculture. I mean, as far as the sustainable concept. And I also wanted to point out, I realize you guys probably know a whole lot more about this kind of stuff than I do, but your interest in compost is admirable and wonderful, and I think spot on, especially because of the fact that compost, when used on people's lawns and in people's gardens and agriculturally when possible, is going to contribute to the health of the soil far more than chemical-based fertilizers. And so the chemical-based fertilizers feed plants, but not the soil. So over time, the health of the soil degrades because it's not being, the microorganisms, et cetera, are not being fed. So that's a really important reason to compost that sometimes people don't realize, that a lot of chemical fertilizers are also petrochemical based. They're byproducts from the petroleum industry. So just wanted to kind of throw that out. And the other thing that I thought of was that I don't know if you guys have a problem yet in Stockbridge, but here in Amherst, where I live, there's a problem with the invasive Asian earthworm. Are you familiar with that at all?
Yes.
I'm starting here, yeah.
Have you started to see them out by you?
Oh, yes, we have them all over.
Yeah. Well, so it's my understanding, and again, you guys probably know more than this than I, but it's my understanding that part of their danger is that they consume a lot of nutrients in the very topmost layers of people's soil. And so compost is one way to replenish and keep those nutrients and the health of the soil there, whether or not you have Asian earthworms. Although, in theory, if they keep multiplying, the more compost we put on, the more they're going to eat. But who knows?
So where would the compost go?
Where would it go?
Yeah.
Compost.
Well, it depends on who's processing it. I mean, technically, there are 4 different companies that haul, and I think there is an anaerobic digester in Sheffield, but usually they don't want post-consumer compost material because of the paper in it. They really just want pure food waste. So it can either go to, based on how well it's sorted, it can go to feed animals in the area, or it can go to a somebody who's licensed to to process process compost on a commercial scale. And I believe that there's at least one farm in the Southern Berkshires or Central Berkshires that does compost on a commercial scale.
That would be Meadow Farm.
I'm sorry,
That would be Meadow Farms.
is that it? Yeah.
And the question on the composting, if, so say we go next year for the grants and we have all our information in, if we were to start collecting compost and worked with a hauler this year, would that count, going into the next fiscal year or next year's application, are we getting any, I guess, points ahead of time? If we start like right now, we don't get the application in this year, but we start the process, have a compost, maybe come late summer, started going in the fall. Is there points for that? I guess that's
right. Yeah. So in order right now, this year, there are 2 points awarded if you collect compost at your transfer station. You've done some things to educate your residents about the composting option in the program, and and you offer home composters to your residents at a wholesale cost. That's worth 2 points. Now, it's my understanding next year, and this is just hearsay, so I can't promise this, but it's my understanding that next year they're going to have a 1 point option where if you only collect material at a transfer station, compost, food waste compost, compostable food waste at a transfer station, if that's all you do, that you would be allotted 1 point. This year, that's not the case. You would also need to sell home units at cost. And that would need to happen before June 15th. So as long as you started your program before June 15th, you could even get points for it this year. Gotcha. But for next year, you would need to have a program in place, have an outreach and education aspect of it, and potentially sell the composting units at cost, at your cost.
And is the selling of the units just, we have to have them available and offer, or is there like, they're not like keeping track of how much we've sold them? It's more just like they're available if people request.
Yes. And it has to be posted on your website. I mean, it has to be clear that they're available to people. So there needs to be, maybe notice at the transfer station and on your website that they're available to people. So it used to be that in order to get the 2 points, you had to sell composting units, home composting units, for $25, which means that, which meant that municipalities had to subsidize the cost because the wholesale cost is about $50, $60. And so we kind of pushed against that because a lot of municipalities can't really afford to be subsidizing like that. So they've changed it to cost. So whatever your wholesale cost is plus shipping, divided into however many you purchase, that would be what you would need to sell them for.
Gotcha. Any more questions or comments?
Where is the availability of the composting units to buy?
To purchase?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're on state contract. So you can purchase, I think a pallet is the smallest number that you can purchase. And I'm forgetting how many are on a pallet. Is it 20 or 25, something like that. One of the things that you can do, or you could try to do if your accounts payable department is flexible, is to go in with another municipality on the purchase. This can really greatly reduce your shipping costs and and plus you get a quantity discount usually. So there are There are a few municipalities that send out notices every once in a while for group purchases. There's usually purchases of recycling bins, you know, the 32-gallon blue recycling bins that people use to bring their material to transfer stations. Those are usually purchased. I think Long Meadow often sends out a group purchase option. And the Franklin County Solid Waste Management District also does. Franklin County also sends out a group purchase option for countertop compost bins, compost collection bins that you can keep in your kitchen, on your countertop or underneath your kitchen sink. And those, again, you know, all of these, you know, when they're purchased, when many municipalities or even several municipalities purchase them together, the wholesale cost goes down drastically. So
Susan, I'm sorry.
no, I'm done.
I'm wondering if the countertop compost bins would also get us to those points, or does it have to be one of the larger bins? Is that what we were talking
Yeah,
about?
I think it has to be the home compost unit.
Okay.
But I can double check on that. Look here right now and let you know.
And is that one of the bigger containers with like the wheels on it and the handle, you know?
You mean the curbside one? Which one
Yeah.
are you talking about? The countertop one is
Not
just,
the countertop.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about, it's actually a composting unit. It's not a compost collection bin. It's a composting unit. The one that's usually used is called the Earth Machine, but there's another one. There's another one that's also an option. The Earth Machine tends to be more small animal proof because it's enclosed. It's a HDPE black unit that sits on the ground, and so it prevents smaller animals from getting in. It's not bear proof, but yeah, so that's an option. That's what a lot of municipalities purchase.
Okay. All right.
One question about the configuration. Is that the round black plastic? Yeah, I had one of those in the 90s.
Uh-huh.
It's in a landfill. Doesn't work.
It did, you say it didn't work?
Doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, there are pros and cons.
I mean, you know.
There are pros and cons to almost every composting unit. And the Earth Machine tends to be one of the more popular ones because it works for more urban areas because of it keeps the smaller animals out, etc. The problem is it is harder to turn, and you know, but there are ways around that. But yeah, there are pros and cons to every single one out there, unfortunately. Now there is another one. I'm forgetting its name. It does not have a lid. It's much larger. It's easier to turn the compost, and those could be sold also, you know, or not also instead of the Earth Machine units. Let's see here. I'm just trying to find the compost. Here's organics. Yeah, it has to be home compost bins. Yeah, it can't be just the countertop bins. But all of those things, both those things can be purchased with RDP money. So, you know, once you have some income, you can spend it on the purchase of some of these things, assuming that there aren't other purchases that are wanting, you know, that are
pressing.
that are pressing.
Yeah.
So I guess I you know, whether or not Stockbridge, I mean, I think that we're hoping to see what we can make happen in the next 6 to 8 weeks, 6 weeks. so I think it's really your commission's decision as to how much you want to contribute to that effort in the short term and then the long term.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all the information, and Abby, thank you for gathering and getting all this. I also just want to point out, Abby did share with us the information about our policy and the data we need to collect. So we have that, we can put that together.
Excellent.
And that's great. And I think we'll stay in touch as things develop, and we'll keep trying to move the ball forward.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I was excited to hear that you guys have interest as well, because sometimes when a municipality has to move on something, it really helps to have multiple interests involved and pushing and collaborating to make it happen. So
Yeah.
I'm excited that you guys are on board, and I think it makes sense for you to be on board. So
Great.
thank you.
Yeah,
I'll-
thank you
I'll
very
talk-
much.
I'll duck out now. You guys have a great night.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Susan.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, that's great. That's good information to have. And like I said, we'll, keep our eye on the compost, and, if we can, if other parties can do their little bit pieces, they can all add up, and we could get a bunch of points, and, hopefully get the compost collection somehow. And I do appreciate that they are kind of divvying up the 1 point and 2 point.
Yeah, I think that will make it a little easier.
All right. Okay, anything else on that before we move on? All right. So Shelby's not here, but the printouts for the town meeting /online, he shared with us a couple of formats. I think he was just, if my impression was right, that he just wanted us to choose between the one that has the aquatics and the terrestrial plants all in one document, or the two documents, one being the aquatic and one being the terrestrial invasives. I peeked through them, and I thought it just made sense, maybe so we don't get confused. Send it in two documents clearly labeled aquatics, terrestrial, unless anyone saw anything different.
That I thought the same thing, but the other thing I thought, and I'm just trying to pull it up. I think he had a disclaimer right at the beginning that this was edited by the Agriculture and Forestry Commission.
Yeah.
I think we should include the Conservation Commission because they were involved in
Yeah,
the initial talks, and Jamie's been coming, and
yeah,
so I think it should be both commissions listed there. Otherwise,
right.
I think it looks fine.
Yeah, that way we could, because they worked on it with us a lot.
Yeah.
That's fine with me, but I would save you a page, move the disclaimer up underneath on the title page if there's room.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Do you want to see it, Jamie? Do you want to see what they look like? Or did you know?
I thought, didn't Sally send out, was that,
That's the conservation one.
oh, okay.
This is the invasives.
And that being said too, my impression, we're going to, for example, just so we'll make sure we're all on the same page, like we have garlic mustard. I'm going to ask Michael to print out, I'm going to say I don't want to say more than 10, just 10 of each individual, I guess, variety of invasive. Because garlic mustard, for example, has 2 pages. So hopefully we can print them out, staple, and, I'm going to coordinate with Michael so that we, I might come here that day up to help make sure it's all set up and looks good in some kind of fashion, maybe set it up day beforehand, so that we just have, 10 copies of each invasive. I don't think they're going to be flying off the shelf. Who knows? And maybe if one does, we know that we have I mean, I think we're all pretty aware of what is really the problems around here, but, that way there's 10 copies of each one on the rack.
And do we have the rack?
I have to go and see the rack this weekend. Bijan wasn't around for a bit, but I'm gonna reach out and go down there. I went down there once, but the door was closed, no lights on.
Go sooner than later.
Yeah, oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna reach out. I'm gonna message him.
If you need help
Yeah.
together, let me know. I'm happy to help.
So other than that, we're adding the Concom to it. We have the Concom's also, Sally's gonna hopefully get that printed.
We have that brochure,
Yeah, the
which
brochure.
Jamie, she's printing that, right?
Okay,
She knows, yeah,
okay.
okay.
So they're handling that, we'll handle this. Any other thoughts about it? All right.
So we'll just make that one suggestion to.
Yeah, I'll just make that one suggestion to Shelby.
Great.
All right. And finally, AFC mission statement, coming back around to it. Yes.
I didn't bring it. Did you not bring it? I'm okay to table it one more time. I thought just on my way over, I don't even know where the most recent.
Why
copy is.
don't we table it and we can maybe connect one more time before, just because I know I went back and reread it and I feel like, oh my gosh, we never double checked about it.
So send me your latest draft.
Yeah.
And
So the update on that is we were going to check in on it.
Okay, before we
Yeah.
discuss it in a meeting, could you send the draft out to us?
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's why, I didn't know if there was an update that we wanted to talk about, but we'll send a draft out before the next meeting. And that being said, last year, June was our last meeting before summer break. If that still feels good, I know we do have the walks.
we have the walks. I really want to keep the stewardship moving. So let's see in June, and we may need to do something for the farmer's market too.
Right.
So let's decide in June,
Yeah.
even if we have a smaller group of just working on either one of those things. But
Right.
the stewardship plan, I'd like to get in
Right.
before the fall, because
Okay.
we've been talking about it for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's just keep tuned to that because maybe, like I said, maybe it is not a Monday night. It's kind of in lieu of when we need to get it in and it will just be that on the
Yeah.
agenda
That would
because of time restraints. And farmer's market, I'm hoping will, if everything goes good tomorrow and Michael makes the offer, Stuart accepts, I'm hoping we're just there for support. One person, if there's a crisis, we'll call everyone together. So that's my hope at least. And obviously compost is also in a more forefront leading into the fall. Okay. So that being said, not hearing any other business.
Are we going to have a June meeting?
Yes, we will. Yeah, June will still have,
June 5th?
June 5th, it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll still have June and then we'll decide, then if we need, if the break is pertinent or if we want to schedule another one sooner.
Okay.
All right. That being said, I'll make a motion to close. Do I have a second?
Second.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.